What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions played their first week of preseason yesterday. They had their season opener, or their preseason opener, versus the Buffalo Bills, and unfortunately, they took a very hard-fought and very tough loss, losing 16-15 on a last-second field goal. But although the Lions did lose, of course, it is preseason, so the actual score does not matter. Even though they did lose, there were a lot of positives to take away, and there was a lot of really good things to watch for during that game. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be going over, of course, the rookies, how they performed, some of the veteran players, and how they performed, of course, some of the standout players that we thought looked really good, the good of the game, the bad of the game, the entire overview, and try to give you as many takeaways and as much information about this game as possible, whether you missed the first game or you missed it the first time around, or you just want a second opinion or a second look back at this football game. Now, before we get into recapping week one of the preseason, if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of you to do so. It is quick, it is free, and it is incredibly easy to do, and you would be helping the channel out more than you could possibly know. So if you could do that, take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be incredibly appreciative for it. But with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into taking a look and going into a deep dive on week one of Detroit Lions preseason.
So we get Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, the Detroit Lions did unfortunately end up losing this football game by a score of 16-15 on the pretty much very last play of the game, the third to last play of the entire football game. The Buffalo Bills kicked a game-winning field goal, and that pretty much iced and sealed the game. However, just because the Detroit Lions were defeated does not mean they played a very poor game. And in fact, I felt like the Detroit Lions for a majority of that game were the better football team. Now, I'm going to start off with the rookies, start off with the big takeaways, and the big things that I saw from this rookie class. Penei Sewell obviously being one of the people that has been in the most spotlight for the Detroit Lions. I thought he played fine. He had one really bad rep early in preseason, right? That first drive was all around terrible. Horrible first pass by Jared Goff, not a great second play for a 0-yard run, and then a sack given up mostly by Penei Sewell. Although it wasn't 100% his fault, it was mostly his fault on the sack. It was not a great start for Penei Sewell. However, he did come back in the second drive, did come back the rest of the time he was on the field, and I thought played very well, played really solid football, again, with the exception of really that first drive, and maybe even the first couple of plays of that first drive, right? The first 3 plays, maybe didn't play the greatest, but come back that second drive. The Lions go 18 plays in, 70 yards in 10 minutes, long, methodical drive, and Penei Sewell, for a majority of that drive, looked really solid. And again, he is still a young player. He is obviously still a rookie, and although he's a potential rookie, although he is a player that has a lot of potential, he is still a player that is playing his first game and played his first game last night for the first time in over 2 years. He hasn't played in game time experience, hasn't been in game situations in over 2 full seasons worth of play. So yeah, he's going to be a little rusty getting back on the field. Yes, for his first game back in his first game in the NFL, as he's still trying to learn and transition 100% to right tackle, I thought he played fine. I thought he was a fine right tackle and showed exactly how good he can help this Detroit Lions offensive line become in 2021. Now, Alim McNeill was another player that I thought looked really solid. Didn't make a big splashy play, but was really solid. Did exactly what we expected him to do. He ate up blocks. He was really strong at the point of attack. He did not move an inch, did not back up. He did his job on the run defense. And I know early in the game, the first couple plays on defense, the defense did not look phenomenal in the run defense, but Alim McNeill was doing his job. He was eating up blocks. He was penetrating. He was doing a very good job at the nose tackle position. Some of the other players around him have to clean up what they're doing, but Alim McNeill as an individual did play very well. Now, Ifeatu Melifonwu is another rookie that saw a lot of playing time last night. I thought he played well. He obviously was really only tested one time down the boundary in a one-on-one situation, and he did forced the incompletion. He used the sideline very well. He did get the ball caught on him, I believe. However, the ball was caught out of bounds. And just, overall, he played very smart. He used the sideline to his advantage. And again, although he did give up the catch on a very tightly contested route, he was close enough to the sideline and used the sideline well enough where the pass was not completed and the Bills were not able to move the chains. I thought Melifonwu played fine. Had a couple, obviously, rookie mistakes here and there for the first preseason game. But all around, I thought Melifonwu played great. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had 2 catches on the day for, I believe, 12 yards. He should have had more. Should have had, I think, 4 catches for probably somewhere around 30 yards. He had a big 15-yard completion that was called back because of penalty, and he had another 2 or 3 yards on another catch that was again called back due to penalty. So he probably should have had more 4 catches for 35 yards. He played way better than 2 for 14, but again, just really good in one-on-ones. One is routes on the outside, one is routes every single time. Got open, had really consistent hands. Didn't have a lot of opportunity to flash, but did play very well in the opportunities that he received. Derek Barnes is another player that very much impressed me. I thought he was the most impressive rookie on the day. He looked fast. He looked aggressive. He tackled in the open field very well. He was only on the field for, I believe, 1 defensive set, and that was to open the second half. He played, I believe, just 3 snaps on the defense, and one of those was a really good tackle in open space on a bootleg on the same play that gave up a touchdown earlier. Derek Barnes read it, got to the right spot and made the tackle. In the second play, or I guess the third play, he was on the field. He was blitzed off the edge and he got through and forced an incompletion and was very close to getting a sack on the day. He looked really good. He played 3 defensive plays for the Lions and had 2 big plays. I think the Lions are trying to save him. They're trying to make him their secret weapon, and they were trying to give us just a little bit of a taste of what Derek Barnes can accomplish. But, overall, in the very limited sample size, Derek Barnes looked phenomenal. Jamar Jefferson did not look phenomenal, had 4 carries for 7 yards. A little bit disappointing, a little bit underwhelming, but knowing that he is coming off of injury, I will give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, and I will give him another week before I truly come down hard on him and before I really try to critique what he did poorly. Because, again, he was dealing with an ankle injury and was actually very questionable whether he would even play or not, whether he would play at all. So the 4 carries, one of those carries he actually looked really good on, was a 5-yard carry. A couple of plays, not so great, but again, with dealing with the injury, being questionable to play in general, I will give him a little bit of slack, and I will give him till the next game to really show us what he is capable of for the Lions. But overall, as a rookie class, I thought this rookie class came out and played incredibly strong. I feel like everybody that was on the field, obviously Levi did not play. We didn't talk about him because he was not on the field. With the exception of Levi Onwuzurike, I feel like every rookie showed why they were drafted, showed a role that they could play in, and showed that they at least had starting caliber potential, with maybe the exception of Justin Jefferson. Now, there were not only rookies that were showing out, there were not only rookies that played well in the first week of preseason, as Julian Okwara had 5 pressures and a quarterback sack on the day. Could have had a second sack, but, decided to go for a flashy strip, tried to end the game on that play. Jake Fromm either just luckily took the ball away or, smartly just tucked it away. Julian Okwara missed by just a few inches, and obviously we know how that drive ended, but he got 5 pressures on the quarterback, could have had realistically 2, if not 3 sacks on that game, right? If he just wraps up on Jake Fromm, we win the football game right there. Julian Okwara walks away with his second sack and likely the defensive MVP of the game. Earlier in, I believe the second or early in the third quarter, there was a drive where the Bills got down to the red zone. Julian Okwara had a phenomenal pass rush off the edge, forced the quarterback outside the pocket, and the quarterback threw the ball in the dirt for intentional grounding. If that doesn't happen, Julian Okwara gets his second or third sack on the game. So yes, he only had 1 sack, but he had 5 pressures on the night and actually realistically could have had at least 3 sacks on the game, if not even more. Kevin Strong is a player that I felt was really strong last night. He started and opened with the starters, opened with the first team defense. He had a tackle for loss on the first drive of the game that set the Buffalo Bills back and really essentially ended their momentum and really ended their first drive of the ball game, forcing them to settle for a field goal early. And then he had a lot of other plays where I believe he forced a fumble later on in the game. He had a lot of tackles for 0, had a lot of tackles right at the line of scrimmage, not allowing a lot. He shot the gap. He got really good penetration a lot during that game. And he's a player that really, really impressed me. That he has done this before in preseason. He's played very well in preseasons before, so I'm not going to overreact just yet. But if he can continue that level of play versus starters, I think he has an outside shot of making the active roster as well. Will Harris, the starting safety alongside Tracy Walker, Walker also impressed me. I thought his run defense was really, really solid. I thought he looked way more comfortable in covers, looked way more comfortable all around in the defense, and just you could see like all preseason we've really talked about the improvements that he's made. All offseason we've really talked about, you know, how much better he's gotten in coverage, how much better he has gotten in run defense, and how much more comfortable he looks in this offense or in this defense. But I think it was really on display last night when he was out there with the starting defense. Now, going to a kind of an overview of the game. Again, there was a lot of really good and a lot of really bad to take away from this game, but there was a ton of positives to build on. Now, I will say the Detroit Lions got off to a very, very poor start. The very first play of the football game, Jared Goff threw arguably the worst throw I've ever seen that probably should have been picked off and maybe even likely should have gone for a pick six. Second play was a 0-yard gain on a run from Jamal Williams. Third play was a sack given up by Penei Sewell. Horrible first drive. They punt the ball. First couple plays, they run it right down the Detroit Lions' throats. They go right down the field. However, the Detroit Lions does stand up. After a couple plays, they do adjust. Kevin Strong gets a tackle for loss. Romeo Okwara gets a pressure on the first throw of the football game, forces an incompletion, forces the Bills to settle for 3. The defense stood up at the end of that first drive, but I will say started a little bit questionable. However, they then came back. The offense then came back and played really well. They then went on an 18-play drive for 70 yards, eating up almost 10 minutes of the clock, and played really, really well. You know, and that was not the only drive where they did that. They had another drive later in the game, I believe was 16 plays, was 80 yards, and ate up just over 8 minutes of the clock. Like, they had some really good, well-sustained, efficient drives on the day, and there were some drives, there were some moments in that game where I felt like the offense was calm, was cool, was very collected. Jared Goff played very well with the exception of that first really bad error throw. And overall, I feel like the offense played very well. They were methodical, they were a little bit slower, but they did, in the end of the day, become a very efficient offense. And they had 4 different drives where they drove more than 60. And I believe they had 4 drives where they drove over 70 yards down the field to score a touchdown. 2 of those drives were over 8 minutes long, and 2 of those drives were less than 4 minutes long. So it showed that they can score a little quicker than a lot of people thought, but it also showed that they can be a slow, methodical, ball control offense that can eat up clock and obviously keep a lot of games close, keeping the opponent's offense off the field. Now, as far as defense, I feel like the pass rush was incredibly good. There was a lot of pressure on the day. There were at least 2 or 3 opportunities for Julian Okwara to get a sack. Romeo Okwara was really close on 1 or 2. The pass rush was very good. They were very aggressive. They did blitz a lot. They were very blitz heavy, which I thought was kind of interesting. You know, they were obviously trying to get pressure on the young quarterback. They were trying to get pressure on Jake Fromm. They were trying to get pressure on the backup, or I guess the third string quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, the second guy to play in that game. They were blitzing. They were dialing things up. They sent their DBs on blitzes. They sent their linebackers on blitzes. They were throwing a lot at the quarterbacks, and they were getting a lot of pressure and making the quarterback uncomfortable. And overall, I felt like the defense was the strength of the team last night overall, and I felt like they played very well. 1, with really good pass rush, but 2, with really good run defense, only allowing the Buffalo Bills as a team to rush for 3.9 yards a carry, having 3 tackles for loss and a lot of different tackles for either 1 yard or 0 yards. That's not a stat, obviously, but there were probably 5 or 6 opportunities for big plays where either Kevin Strong or, Jayshon Cornell or, whoever it was got a really good tackle for very minimal gain. And the run defense overall played really, really well. The Detroit Lions defense also limited the big play. They only allowed 1 deep passing play on the entire game. Unfortunately, that 1 play did end up costing the Detroit Lions the game. Unfortunately, that 1 play against Bobby Price where he got beat was kind of, out of the play, just got beat right off the line. That 1 play did end up giving the Detroit Lions some trouble and did end up costing them the game overall. But other than that 1 play, I felt like the secondary played very well. Other than that 1 play, I felt like the entire defense overall was really good. They limited big plays. They only allowed 1 play over 20 yards on the entire game, and it was that deep shot at the very end of Marquand Stevenson. I was very impressed with this team overall. Again, a lot of good stuff. The defense, I thought, played tremendously. Aaron Glenn, the first look we got at Aaron Glenn's defense looks like it has a lot of promise. They could have very realistically had a couple takeaways. I believe they forced at least 2 fumbles on the day and probably could have come up with an interception or 2 at points during the game. They looked like they could force turnovers. They did not give up big plays. They were fast. They were mean. They were aggressive. They got pressure on the quarterback. And overall, they looked phenomenal on defense. And then again on offense, they had 4 really long, really well-sustained drives. And apart from that first drive, they were efficient and they were deadly all night long, regardless of who was at the helm. They obviously took a little bit of a step back with Tim Boyle, but when Jared Goff was in the building, when Jared Goff was in the play calling, when he was with the first team offense, when they were on the field, and then when when David Blau was on the field with the second or third string offense, both of those quarterbacks looked very comfortable, very calm, cool, and collected, and both of those quarterbacks were incredibly efficient on the day. And I believe that Tim Boyle lost his starting job, or I believe he lost his backup job yesterday because of how poorly he played and how well David Blau executed the offense. Now, overall, I felt like the Lions were a more aggressive team. I felt like they tackled better. I felt like they were faster, they were meaner, and they were way more competitive this preseason than I've seen in many preseasons past. I felt like Matt Patricia was not having a competitive team, was not fielding a competitive depth. In the preseason, it felt like the Lions were just a really bad football team, and it felt like they had guys that just weren't NFL caliber, right? It felt like their depth was not on the same level of even the lesser teams in the NFL, and that's why we got torched during the preseason all the time, whereas this team seems to be way more competitive. The depth seems to be working way harder, and overall, I feel like the talent and the just the competitiveness of the game was way higher than we've seen out of Matt Patricia's depth, and way more competitive than we've seen in preseasons past. So with all that being said, that is kind of my big takeaways of the game. I thought all the rookies played well. I thought Julian Okwara, Kevin Strong, and Will Harris stood out tremendously. Anthony Lynn's offense looked really good, and I will have a video coming out on that. I want to go in depth a little bit more on that offense. I feel like Aaron Glenn's defense was incredible. I will go into a video and I will go in more depth on that video. And overall, there was a lot of really good takeaways, but overall, I was incredibly impressed with this first preseason game. They were competitive, they were fast, they were mean. I felt like they were the better football team for a majority of that game, and if they don't give up that one pass at the end, they win the football game. If Julian Okwara wraps up on that one play, they probably win the football game. If they don't go for a fourth down early in the game, they probably win that football game. If they just kick the extra point, they at least tie that football game, right? Like, one way or the other. Obviously, some of those you're going to see in the regular season, some things you're not going to see in the regular season. I'm not really going to, blame the coaches on this because it's preseason. They're going to be aggressive. They want to see what they can do with certain packages, and they want to just throw some things at the wall and see what sticks, and I understand that. But make no mistake, the Detroit Lions very realistically could have and maybe even should have won this football game. But overall, regardless of the loss, I thought they played incredibly well, and I thought they showed exactly what they were capable of going into 2021, and that is a ball control offense, that is a really stout defense, that is just tough to run on, that is tough to pass on, that does not allow big plays, that makes you work for every single yard like we were hoping to see out of this team. And this is going to be a team that, yeah, maybe at the end of the day walks away with a loss, but it's a 1-point loss. It's a hard-fought loss, and we're going to come away from, a lot of these games saying, okay, one play here, one play there, one decision here, one decision there, and it's a completely different ball game. And that's the kind of team that a lot of people are expecting the Lions to be this year. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what your biggest takeaways from this first preseason games were. Let me know who impressed you, who disappointed you, and of course, just give me your biggest takeaway from this first week and this first game of this new look Lions regime. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!